Welcome to the second in our two-part look at the role of women in Christianity. So in Deuteronomy 25 we read, "If a woman steps into a fight to try to rescue her husband, she must have her hand cut off." And in Leviticus 27, God actually defines the value of human life. 50 shekels for a man, 30 for a woman. 20 shekels for a boy, 10 for a girl. Christians will often say that God was educating his children slowly, bringing them forwards out of the culture they were in. But there's no excuse for a wise God saying this kind of stuff. If he'd wanted to educate people, this wasn't the way to do it. It's obviously written by men in a male culture. In Isaiah 3 we read, "The women are haughty, therefore the Lord will bring sores on the heads of the women. The Lord will reveal their private parts." Note the NIV Bible translates this dishonestly. Other versions are more honest. The Hebrew word used is poth, a slang term for the vagina. There are many references to lifting skirts as punishments. The scribes who wrote this were clearly sexually obsessed or repressed. For example, in Nahum 3, 5-6, "I am against you, declares the Lord God Almighty. I will lift your skirts over your face. I will show the nations your nakedness and the kingdoms your shame. I will pelt you with filth. I will treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle." Is a God who talks like this really worthy of your time? It's the kind of language you might expect from a psychotic teenage boy. In Leviticus 15 we read, "If a woman has a discharge, there must be a sin offering." So you see, women are seen as sinful, defiling all around them. We see the same kind of thing in Isaiah 4. The Lord will wash away the filth of the women. And many verses throughout the Old Testament say the same kind of thing. But even in the book of Revelation, this is in the New Testament, and it was written after Jesus had lived. Chapter 14. "These are the ones who did not defile themselves with women. They kept themselves pure." So in this New Testament verse, women are still regarded as dirty. In this famous passage from Numbers, chapter 31, this is God speaking through Moses, and he asks, "Have you allowed all the women to live? Now kill all the boys, and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man." In other words, butcher the boys, massacre the mothers, and rape the daughters. How do we know this means rape? Well, in the context of the other passages we've read, it can't mean anything else. Couldn't the omnipotent God have set humanity a better example? Put yourselves in the situation of one of these mothers. Your husband is already dead, you and your son will be murdered, while your daughter will be held captive and raped, possibly by elderly priests. This is false religion. Later in the same story, we read of how they divided the plunder, and we see the priestly hypocrisy. Here the young girls are consigned to be raped and enslaved by the orders of Moses. 32,000 virgins were captured. 32 of these were given to Eleazar, that's the high priest. 320 were given to the Levite priests, and the rest, 31,648, were enslaved by the rest of the Israelites. In Judges chapter 11, Jephthah sacrifices his own daughter by burning her alive. Jephthah has made a silly vow that he will kill the first thing he sees on arriving home. Of course, his daughter runs out to greet him. The worst thing about this story is that God holds him to it. God accepts the human sacrifice of a young girl because of a silly vow. How easy it would have been for God to have said to Jephthah, "Don't bother." In Numbers 30, any vow made by a woman can be nullified by her father or husband. This illustrates just how powerless women were. Judges 21. Here the Jews kidnap women specifically for sex. It says, "Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin." They found 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp. In 2 Samuel 16, Absalom lay with his father's concubines. Whom do you think David decided to punish? Can you guess? 2 Samuel 20 will tell you the answer. He locked the concubines away for life. Do you think that's just? David was a man after God's own heart. If David was so close to God, why didn't God hint to David that this might be slightly unjust? Well, the answer, of course, is that the Bible was written by men in a male culture. In 2 Samuel 12, God uses the rape of innocent women as a means of punishing his chosen men. He says, "I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight." So according to God's sense of justice, women have no power, no feelings, no worth, except as property. In conclusion, I can't do better than quote Elizabeth Cady Stanton once more. This book has caused more injury and degradation to woman than has any other which has ever been written in the history of the world.